Hi everyone, dying today. My name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Sorry that my weekly reading wrap up is going up a day late, but I was really inspired to make a certain video that went up yesterday, which was about number one, kind of my booktube journey, as well as diving into, monetization and some of my own analytics. And so I was really excited to make that video. And so I didn't want to wait any longer. So that went up on Sunday and you're getting this on Monday, which is just as fun, right? I read 11 books this week and DNF'd 2 of them. And so we're just gonna dive right in. This was kind of a mixed bag of a week for me, I'll be honest. I have only had like 6 DNFs the whole year. So to have 2 of them in 1 week was a little bit disheartening to me. But one of them, I don't hate the book. I'll explain the reasons. And the other one, again, I don't hate the book. It just wasn't for me this week. So let's go ahead and dive in. So the first one that I want to talk about was Someone to Trust by Mary Balogh. So I have been catching up on my Mary Balogh. You'll notice I've read a lot of her this month. And she's a very relaxed, calm, historical romance author. Like, her books are very peaceful and there is very low angst levels, and sometimes they touch on really deep topics. Like this one, the premise and the topic wasn't as deep, but the next one I'm going to talk about, which was the next one in the series, had a little bit of a deeper meaning. So this is book 5 in the Westcott series. I started this series when it started because this is the series she did after the Survivors Club, which was my favorite of her series. And this one is about a family that basically they all ended up being bastards. That's what this series is about. There was this man who he did kind of a shotgun wedding with this really poor, sweet woman, and then she got consumption and he thought she died, but she wasn't dead yet when he married his new wife. He married a ton wife and had 4 kids with her, but his first wife was still alive when he did this. So even though she ended up dying like 6 months afterwards, all of his children are bastards because that marriage wasn't legitimate. So when he dies, so this is a setup for the series. Again, this is book 5, but in that first book, it's about the legitimate child from that marriage who is actually his heir and usurps his wife and 4 children. And in the beginning of this series, that family is obviously pretty pissed about it. The mother, who's actually the one who reaches out to that legitimate child, thinks that she was the bastard and that she just wants to make sure this woman is taken care of because she's a good woman at heart. And then inadvertently, she misplaced all of her own children by doing that. So there's a lot of drama in it. But anyway, that first book is about the supposed bastard who's really the heir. And then the subsequent books are about those children who now find themselves bastards, and then their cousins as well. Like there's some other family members. So this book, to pull up to this one, this is about a widow. Her name is Elizabeth Overfield, and she is related to the Westcotts. I think she's related to the Westcotts, maybe. I can't remember. There's a big Christmas party, and then there is Colin Handrick, who he's the brother of one of our previous heroines, and he's actually a younger man. So there's an 11-year age difference, and it's an older woman. So I was very excited to read this. I've been reading more older women, younger hero books, whether it's just an age gap or not a big age gap, but the woman is older. And this one was even more interesting. This is the second book in this series that has had an older woman, younger man. And it was actually the hero's sister who was the older woman to her younger man in that one. And then in this one, he's 25, and the woman that he falls for, she's 36. So they have this really cute moment at a Christmas party where like all the families came together for the birth of one of the children and came together for this Christmas party, and they end up making a promise to each other that because she's finally getting to enjoy a season. She's been a widow for a while, she's out of mourning, and he is going to be looking for a wife because he's 26 and he's going to try to find a wife now. And they make a promise to dance the first waltz waltz with each other at every party for the season. So they make this cute little promise. And meanwhile, they both are kind of looking at other people for relationships, but they keep coming up to each other and they're like, you know, why are we fighting this? Maybe we're the ones meant to be together. So this was pretty cute. I gave this 4 stars. Again, like I said, it's pretty low stakes, and I said this in my video last week too. I think that I've just moved beyond Mary Balogh in what I want out of my books, but she still is very nostalgic to me, and I plan to finish out this series. I have one more book, at least. I don't know how many more she's writing in the series, but I want to keep reading them because I really enjoy that relaxed, and all of these books were on Audible Escape, so I've actually been listening to these because I really enjoy the narrator. So this was 4 stars for me. Then I read Indecent Proposal, which was the OMalleys book by Katee Roberts that I meant to read. On my TBR, I put the wrong book on there. But this is book 3. This one is about Killian O'Malley and what's her name? Olivia. And she is related to the Romanoffs, who they're kind of like the main aggressor towards the O'Malleys in this mafia world. And there is like 6 O'Malley siblings. This is one of the boys. I gotta tell you, this is one of the, I gotta say, this is the only Katee Roberts book that I've given less than a 4 star, and I gave it 3.5. And I really don't want to blame this book. Katee writes a really good mafia story. These are her traditional published with Forever, which is Grand Central Publishing. There's 6 books total in this series. I plan to continue. I'm going to read the 4th one in October, but I just wasn't feeling this one. This was, of course, an enemies to lovers, but it starts with a one-night stand in an alley, basically. And then this woman finds out that this is an O'Malley, and she has a child. And she's just like, I just want to stay away from this. I want to get out of the mob life. I don't want to be pulled back into this. So I just wasn't feeling it because these are a bit of a softer mafia feel. And even though I've been in a lighter mood lately, I'm trying to read some lighter books this month. In my mafia, I still want it to be a little more than this. And I just wasn't feeling it. So I only gave this one a 3.5 star. But I am still going to continue the series. And again, I really feel like if I had been in a better mood, this could have been higher up. So I feel a little bit bad that I just wasn't vibing with it. Then I read The Coaching Hours by Sara. This is book 4 in the How to Date a Douchebag series. This one was okay. This is about, so the wrestling coach who we've been seeing throughout this series, this is about his daughter. She ends up transferring to the school that he teaches at. And in the beginning of the year when she moves there, she's living with him. And he tells all his players, you're going to see my daughter around. Don't mess with her. You mess with my daughter and things are going to be difficult for you. And a bunch of guys on the wrestling team end up making a bet to see who can sleep with the coach's daughter first because they're stupid. But the main guy in this one, he kind of like warns her about the bet, and they like kind of come up with a plan to mess with him and like get back at the people. But then this took a twist that is not my favorite, which I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it caused me to only give this a 4 star. They did this trope, not the worst that I've ever seen it done, because the explanation for why it happened, very believable, but I just wasn't in the, once I saw where the story was turning to, I was like, I'm not a fan of this. But I gave it a 4 star still because it's very well written. Then I read Undercover Bromance by Lyssa K. Adams. This was on my TBR this month. This is the 2nd book in the Bromance book club. The 3rd book in this is coming out in October, and I really liked the Bromance book club, which was a second chance romance. It was a sports book. This one isn't about sports. This is about restaurant manager, I think. I can't remember. But this is about Liv, who is the sister of the heroine from the 1st book, and she is a chef, and there's a bit of a Me Too situation happening with her boss. She catches her boss propositioning a young girl, not a young girl, but like a younger intern, a younger waitress at her restaurant. And so the boss fires her, and she had signed a non-disclosure agreement, And then we find out that this man has really been like assaulting lots of women who worked for him. And so Liv wants to go on a crusade to end him. And so she ends up pairing with Brayden, who she thought Brayden was friends with this guy. But it turns out they're really more just acquaintances. And as soon as Brayden finds out what this guy did, who this guy is, he is like, fuck this guy. We're going to take him down. And Liv just doesn't trust Brayden, doesn't want to work with him. This is kind of a hate to love. This book is a case of an unlovable heroine, because here's why. She has a righteous reason for what she's doing, and I think the reason that I dislike her so much is I really empathize with her. Like, I feel like I would be her, okay? And so that puts me in a sticky situation, because I think that I would be her, and it's like looking at my own weaknesses through someone else. Because when she finds out what happened, the woman who was being, assaulted by this guy, coerced by this guy, she doesn't want to do anything about it because she's scared. This guy's rich, he has a lot of money, and she needs this job. It's at a very good restaurant. And even though, like, Brayden offers this woman another job, they offer to get him away from him, she, like, won't take it. And so Liv judges her a lot for this. She's like, why won't you just leave? I don't understand why, even when we found you another option, you won't take it. And so that is the story of this book, though. Because I think as us who want to be allies to things, I've never been assaulted in my life. I have friends who have been. I have friends here, that I've talking with who've shared their experiences with me. And you want to just be like, why haven't you done something about it? But there are reasons. It is a nuanced thing. There's no right or wrong way to respond to trauma. And so something that's happening, though, is we see Brayden, so this is obviously one of the guys who's in the Bromance Book Club. Brayden has some secrets in his past, too. And he is kind of the one who, so to some people this might feel like mansplaining, but Liv needed some splaining done to her, okay? So that's why I liked this. I liked that it was unique that a man was doing the explaining, but he was doing it with compassion too. Like, he could see how much Liv wants to help these people and take this guy down. But he's like, you can't force people to speak up, Liv. Like, what are you doing? And she's just like, you're wrong. Why are you mansplaining this to me? What are you doing? And so, but he does it with a lot of gentleness and like, hey, you can't force this out of people. What are you doing? And so I really appreciated that about him. And it didn't feel like mansplaining to me. It felt like honest, like, hey, I would never tell a woman how to feel about that. Like, you are bullying her from another perspective, and that's not what they need from you. You need to be understanding and compassionate and not just like have the fires of on high and want to take something out. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this book. There's a lot of work being done, and I really appreciated it. I ended up giving this 5 stars because the way that it concluded, I loved it. This was kind of like a dual grovel at the end, because Brayden, because of his past, when he finally, like, when we get to the dark moment, I won't spoil it, but the dark moment in a romance, he thinks he's the one that messed up, and Liv thinks she's the one that messed up. And the truth is, yes, they both messed up, but I appreciate that it's a double grovel, because to me, Liv is the one who kind of needed to grovel more. And Brayden just immediately is like, I'm going to take on the damage of this. And the way that it all works out, I really appreciate it. I haven't seen a double grovel happen quite like this one does. And I really liked it. I liked what we saw from the Bromance Book Club again. We get a new person added to the club. We look at some different books. This one was much better in that they didn't quote big chunks of the book like in the first one. A lot of people's problem was there was too much of that fake romance novel like written in the pages. This one only, they talk about the book, and then during the dark moment is when we read a chapter, not a chapter, we read a passage from that book. So I really think that helped Because what I appreciate about the Bromance Book Club is I'd rather that the book club be telling us about the book than just read passages from a made-up book within a book, right? So I did still love this. It did lean more towards women's fiction, but it's still extremely sexy. And I really liked this one. I thought that this one particularly had some lessons for me within it. Whereas, like, I can't necessarily relate to a second chance romance, but I could relate to Liv in her wanting to do good so bad, but doing a bit of damage when you're trying to help, because you are a bit of a blunt instrument, right? So this was really good. So then we had the two that I DNF'd. I'll talk about those real quick here. So I DNF'd Vendetta Road by Christine Feehan. This was on my TBR this month, and this one just went off the freaking rails for me. Okay, these books are all super insta-love. They're always super sexual right away. They're always really alpha male. They're almost a fated mate. This is a biker club who stops sex trafficking and human slavery. So they're awesome dudes. This one we're dealing with a girl who she has an abusive fiance. She's a rich girl and she is an heiress and she has a very abusive fiance, and he turns physically abusive in a very striking way, literally. And so she makes her escape. And through some reason, she had already been aware of this MC beforehand, and so she actually runs to them like with nothing. And so she runs into Ice, who is, I think he's the VP. What is he? No, he's not the VP. What is Ice? Ice is the secretary of the club, and he has an insta-love attraction for her. And for reasons, they get married the day that they meet. So, and it's not a marriage of convenience because they like each other and have like decided they're in insta-love with each other. And then it just was too much and I had to stop. I'm still going to continue this series though, because my friend Shay over at Shay Geeks Out told me that book 4 had some of the coolest like sex scenes and like love story that she'd seen in the series. So I'm still going to continue that. But to be honest, both of the first 2 books in the series were 3.5 stars for me. And then this one, I was just like, I got 150 pages in, which was only this far, and I was like, I'm not going to continue with this because I'm not wasting time being in these characters' heads anymore, and so I moved on. So I DNF'd that one, but I will continue the series with Desolation Road soon, so I'll read that. Then I meant to talk about, oh no, I'm going to talk about the other one I DNF'd, sorry. Then I also DNF'd Sicko by Amo Jones. My really good friend, Shauna, recommended this to me. We toss book recommendations back and forth. She's been my best friend since I was like 12 years old. And we read lots of dark romances. And so she read this one. And this was a like, not a stepbrother romance, but like an adopted sibling romance. These two were close this whole time. Then it becomes a MC romance because he ends up going away, disappearing for a while, joins an MC, and comes back, and is just like, it's also then like a bully romance. But in the meantime that this adopted brother has been gone, our main character, she ends up in a really bad situation. And so he comes back with just a really like bad attitude for her. And not knowing any of these things about her, she's not going to tell him because she's really scared and intimidated by the situation she's in. She's also a badass. Like, she's not a wilting violet stuck in a situation. But the darkness level that this was going to is just not where my head is at right now. Remember, I'm trying to read some lighter things. And so my friend was like, this hero's bananas. He's so alpha. This is crazy. And then I also saw Mary from Makeup and Mary read this. She just did a whole video on Amo Jones. And while I definitely want to try another book by Amo Jones, this one was just, I was 50% in with it, and I was just like, I can't continue. It was too much for the time. I've definitely read darker things than this, but the things that were happening to our heroine, that specific kind of darkness, I just could not continue with in the moment, so I had to say goodbye to it for now. I don't know that I'll go back to finish it either. because the hero, the anti-hero of this, he just was hitting some certain bells for me that are just like, he's not someone I want to get on this side of, and I didn't even think he was that sexy. And it was a bummer because the first like 10% where they were kids had all that like tension that I like from like a stepbrother romance, because they're living in the same house and they're a little too close for being siblings, and I like that. But then when it did the time jump and stuff, I just wasn't into it. So we moved along. Then I meant to talk about this book right after I read the other one, but I read Someone to Honor. This is the 6th book in the Westcott series. This is about Abigail Westcott, so one of the siblings who has been named a bastard, right? Well, her brother Harry, back in the beginning of the series when they all found out they were bastards, Harry asked his guardian to get him a commission in the army, and so he joined the army. So he's fighting in the Napoleonic Wars, and he makes friends with this guy named Gilbert Bennington, who is also a bastard, but a much lower class, like society-wise thing. And they both they become friends during this time. Bennington is actually his superior officer, but Harry gets injured, and so for the last like 6 months to a year, Bennington has been kind of his like companion and helping him out, and they're finally bringing him home to convalesce because he almost died many times. He looks like he's in his 50s instead of his 20s because he's just been so beaten down. And so they bring this brother home to live, and then all the family converges on him. And so Bennington really feels like an outsider to all these people. And then he runs into Abigail, Harry's sister. And he happens to be chopping logs a la Captain America. But he has his like shirt off and everything. And she thinks that he's a servant. And so she's stunned because he's so beautiful. And so she chews him out, tells him that she's going to talk to her brother about him working with his shirt off and being rude to her. And then she finds out that this is the guy who's been taking care of her brother and is his superior officer, and she's so embarrassed. So they kind of get started off on the wrong foot. But again, remember I said these are pretty low angsty books, so even though there's that miscommunication, it's really cute. He has a dog named Beauty, who's actually really ugly. I love when that's like a trope. It makes me really happy. An ugly animal that's called like Beauty or something. And Gilbert has something going on. So he had a wife, and his wife was a rich girl who like ran away to marry him, and then she was pregnant and she like went back home. She was really unhappy being a soldier's wife because it was exciting and like dangerous to go marry this like bastard son who was in the army or whatever. And when she got sick of following the army camp around, she went home to have their baby, and then she left her baby with her parents and just left. And then she ended up dying. And now he's back and he's trying to get his daughter back. Like, he loves his daughter, and he hasn't been able to see her in over a year because when he went to go pick her up, her parents had heard bad things about him. They have a bad view of him because he took their daughter away. And so they refused to give him his daughter back. And so he's in a custody battle to get his daughter back. And he's told by his lawyer that it will help him if he gets married and has a stable home to take his daughter to. So there's your marriage of convenience. Obviously, Abigail and Gilbert are going to do that. This book, I gave this one a 4.5 stars because the way that Gilbert was about his daughter and wanting her back, and getting to see the struggle of like a dad who wanted his daughter back in this time period. Number one, that like who he'd barely ever seen because he'd been at war most of the time she was alive, and that it's a daughter that he wants back so much, and that Abigail is just so ready to make it happen. And it's a beautiful love story. So again, pretty low angst, but this one did have pretty high stakes because this man, Gil, doesn't realize how other people see him. He doesn't realize how many people would be willing to speak up for him to get his daughter back. And it's pretty beautiful to see how this one went out. So I really loved Someone to Honor. Then I read Tools of Engagement. So funny story. My TBR video is going to come out tomorrow. And you're going to see that this is on my October TBR. But I did say that I might have it read by then. This book just came out on the 25th? No, on the 22nd. This is the third and final book in the Hot and Hammered series by Tessa Bailey. This is a hate to love. This is a older woman, younger man romance. Oh my gosh. The man is 23, the woman is 30. And I loved it. I'm telling you, I am loving older women, younger men lately. Like, this one is great. We already know that that's their couple name, Wes and Bethany, have some issues going on. We met Wes in Love Her or Lose Her when he came to town to stay with his niece because his sister was going through a rough time, and he came to stay with his niece, who is 5 years old, and the Just Us League had took on bringing him food and to helping him take care of his niece. So he's only supposed to be there temporarily, so he was working with Bethany's family's company renovating houses. So now Bethany has wanted to take on her own renovation for quite a while. Her brother Steven has had frustrating bits in each one of these books, and I kind of wish we were getting a novella at least about him and his sister so we could humanize him a little more, because I just get so frustrated with Steven in all of these books. And so it ends up that this production company comes to town, and they want to do this war between the family of who can renovate the best house. So Bethany has a house that she bought, which her brother had promised to help with, but isn't going to. And so she ends up getting Wes to come help her, even though she really doesn't want him. Wes doesn't hate Bethany at all. He wants her. He has wanted her since he first saw her. He is from Texas, or no, wait. He's from there, and then he lived there, and now he's back there again. Is it Texas? Maybe I'm just making this up. But I know he has an accent, so I'm sorry if I'm wrong about where he's from. But he wears a cowboy hat, and he's super sexy, and it's great. And he has a niece that he's taking care of, and they're adorable. But he's not planning to stay that long in town, and Bethany's not looking for a fling, and she's also been on a dating hiatus. So there's all these things that add together. But as always, Tessa Bailey writes a really sexy story. It's really fun. Neither one of them are super great with kids either, but they just want to take care of, what's the little kid's name? Laura. Laura is so sweet. She's just adorable. And yeah, Wes, there is no way in hell that you won't like Wes. He is so wonderful. He's amazing. And Bethany is that kind of character that I really empathize with her. Her family doesn't, understand why she needs to struggle on her own. She's very anal. She is a little bit OCD about things. And just watching her, watching Wes kind of frazzle her perfectly ordered life is just really cute and sweet. And I loved those two together. I've loved this whole series. This one, to me, it will go from tearing you up to having you hot and bothered in such a quick thing. It's almost like whiplash. It's so adorable, and I loved it. I loved spending time with them. I'm sad this series is done, but I love that it's complete now. Can't wait to take book pictures of all of them together, and it was just really cute. This, to me, is what I love in a contemporary book that comes out looking like this. And it's the same way I feel about Helen Wong's books. This had some really big issues it's tackling, where it would almost be women's fiction, but then the romance is still really sexy and fun, and it keeps me engaged. Whereas books Well Met and Well Met and Well Played, I get bored because there's too much non-romance stuff happening. But anyway, loved it, gave that 5 stars. All right. I went through all the other ones first so that we could dive into the R.S. Gray path that I went. So I binged a bunch of R.S. Gray. As some of you know, Audible Escape will be going away in November. In fact, some of my friends from Romance Booktube are doing a Audible Escape readathon. So definitely check that out. Look that up if you're interested. But I have always wanted to try R.S. Gray, and pretty much half of her books are on Audible Escape. She's my friend Shauna, who I mentioned earlier, one of her favorite authors. She like reads all of her books, and I've always put them off. And again, I was trying to read lighter books, and a lot of hers are romantic comedies. So I dived in, and this week I read 5 because at 1.7 speed, I was able to get through these in like 3 or 4 hours each one, and so it went pretty quick. So the first one that I started with was Make Me Bad. So this one was a case of a Virgin Heroine. She's a children's librarian, and she ends up, I mean, it starts off pretty dark. She gets attacked at the beginning of this story by someone who's trying to like get back at her brother, who's a police officer. Her dad's actually the police chief, and her brother's a police officer. She's 26, still lives at home with them. It's just them 3. And she runs into the town bad boy, who's like the son of the rich guy in town. And he like saves her from getting attacked. And then they end up like, he ends up for another thing, like having to have community service, and he ends up doing community service at the library. And they make one of those deals where she's like, teach me to be bad. It was cute. It was fun. I gave it a, what did I give this one? Make Me Bad. I gave it a 3.5, bordering on a 4-star. It was cute. It was light. It has the, you know, the classic, like, teach me to do bad things. And then also, I'm a virgin, so that'll make me bad if we have sex. The reason why I, like, roll my eyes a little bit is that the things that were make me bad, like, they never, like, really did anything. Like, skinny dipping was one of them, and, like, one other thing. And I was just wanting more things to be put in there. Not that they had to go, like, bad, because, again, that's, like, not the point that they be bad, but it just wasn't what I wanted. Then I read Hotshot Doc, which was a hate to love. It was a, this woman, she's a surgical assistant for this doctor, and he's retiring. And so that doctor who's retiring is trying to find her another doctor to work for, because she actually, it's just her and her younger sister. She's her younger sister's guardian. Her sister's like 15, and she is like 27. And she had been planning to go to be a surgeon herself, and then her parents died, and she took over being her younger sister's guardian, and so she was able to become a surgical assistant, but not a surgeon herself. And then there's this hotshot doc who actually does spinal surgeries on children, and he's very focused. He's seen as really rude and brusque, and he has been blowing through his surgical assistant. And so this surgeon who's retiring, he sets these two up to work together, and it's a hate to love. He's not really her boss, but it's like, it's a coworker situation, and I really liked this. I really liked the hero. He is a hero in this book, like doing these surgeries on kids that like no one else wants to attempt because they have a really high risk. And it was a really cute romance between the two of them. I had a lot of fun. He's a grumpy hero, but he's dedicated, and he's just one of those where like, he's grumpy because he's like, I don't have time for anything else. I am saving kids, you know? And so it's fun. They watch Grey's Anatomy in here, and they're like, who is my, there was a lot of like, what's my doctor name? It was just really cute. I had a great time with it. Then though, I read Fortunate Ones by R.S. Gray. Okay. Now I had high hopes for this. I'm going to try not to spiral too much. But I had high hopes for this one because I asked Shauna to send me her favorites. However, Shauna, you know, doesn't write reviews. I don't always write reviews either. So she's like, I rated them. And then she like sent me which one she'd rated 5 stars. This was an age gap. It's an 11-year age gap. She's 25. He's 36. She works at this resort. He is a like business developer. And through things like they end up hitting it off. He pursues her, but then it was mistake after mistake after mistake on his part. And they were shitty ones. They were shitty mistakes. He, like, I can't even go through them all. But then to make it worse, this was a book that had them then be apart for a year and a half in a 300-page book. And then things get fixed. And I was so angry. I angry cried because I'm not going to spoil. I don't even care to give this book enough of my like time to detail how fucking angry I was. I gave this 2 stars because I feel like there was a few things conspiring against it. 1, Shauna gave me high expectations. 2, I had my period when I was reading this, and so the feelings that I was having were amplified by a million because I don't angry cry. And I didn't DNF it because I was like, I gotta know how you're gonna try to wrap this all up. And it was stupid. It was stupid. Like, the way that he treated her those 3 different times where he, like, there was a misunderstanding, but then he, like, not only took another person's side in his opinion of her, but he would just ghost her for big chunks of time. And she would just be so desperate to hear from him again, and it would make her working environment very uncomfortable. He embarrassed her at work multiple times. And then, like, but it wasn't even enough that it was a toxic relationship, because that wasn't ever focused on, you know? I don't know, whatever. I gave it 2 stars. I hated it. And it's a good thing that I was liking other R.S. Grays because I hated that book. But then I read Not So Nice Guy, and this one I gave 4.5 stars. This was a best friends to lovers. It's 2 teachers. They've been friends for like 5 years. They're both like 28. And everyone at the school thinks that they're dating because they spend so much time together. They have weekly standing TV dates where they cook and watch TV together. And then there's a substitute teacher who comes. She's going to be a long-term sub for a teacher who's having a baby. And she tells this person that she's not dating him because she's like, oh, is he single? And she's honest. And she's like, well, yeah, he's single. And the thing about these 2 best friends is that they became friends when they both were dating other people. And then over these 5 years, they were only single at the same time, like a couple times. Otherwise, they've like always on and off like had someone. And then for the last like 9 months, they've both been single and have just been each other's like best friends. So everyone at the school thought they were dating. Now they hear that he's single, and he gets a little bit pissed because he's been working up to asking her out. He was trying to come up with a perfect plan. He wants to woo her and just like put out all the stops because this is his best friend. And he's like, I know that we're a forever match, right? And I love when a hero knows that. I love it. He knows that they're meant to be, but he knows that she's going to be hesitant about it and won't want to ruin their friendship. So he's really laying the groundwork for it. But when he hears her say that, instead of let's try to make people jealous, because that's a thing that could happen in a situation like this, he tells her, oh, it's so beautiful, guys, the setup of this. He tells her, he's like, I can't believe you told everyone I was single. I've been waiting for you to be ready for me. And now I'm turning it up. Because she's like, no, you're my best friend. I can't ruin this. I'm so scared of ruining it. And he's like, nope, I'm turning it up to 11. I am going to win you. And he does it. Okay, I'll tell you like one little thing. So when he finally tells his parents that he's going to ask her out, because he talks to his parents all the time, it's so cute. His mom and dad are like, oh my gosh, we are so excited. And it was so cute because he's like, guys, I'm just going to ask her on a date. This could go really bad. And they're like, no. You guys are meant to be together. We're so happy. And I thought that was so cute. I love when the hero is close to his family. And it was adorable. There is a really fun twist in this story that I won't ruin for you. But I really, really suggest this book if you want to start with an R.S. Gray. It was my favorite one that I've read. I love friends to lovers when they're done like this. And it was done really well. There was none of that like we're friends and then when we make a move we like can't be friends anymore, because he was like, no, I want this to escalate. I'm not going to pretend the next day that nothing happened because I'm trying to win you. So we're not going to go back to the way it was. I'm going to pursue you. I like, this is everything I've wanted. And I just loved him so much. So I highly recommend Not So Nice Guy. He's totally a nice guy. I don't want to, he just says, I'm not going to be the nice guy anymore. I'm going to win you. But he's totally the nice guy the whole time. But it's adorable. And then, the last book I have to talk about in this one, the book that I just finished on the way home last night, is I finished The Foxe and the Hound by R.S. Gray. This is another hate to love. This one has Dr. Foxe, who's a veterinarian. And this girl and her dog. So she was bamboozled. She adopted this puppy who ended up to be a Bernese like herding dog or something or whatever. And so she's only had him for 3 months, and he's went from being this little puppy to like the same size as her. And so she takes him for a walk one morning, and he just like gets away from her, and he tackles this guy who's wearing his suit and gets mud all over him. And so this guy like chews her out and is like, you need to train your dog a little bit better. This is horrible and unacceptable. And then she was taking her dog to her vet appointment, and when she gets to the vet, he's the vet. And so he's a little bit like rude to her in the beginning of it and everything, but then he invites her to, actually, I'm going to be teaching a like puppy discipline class. Like I'm going to be teaching a like class like that, so you should bring your dog to this. So that's how their interactions start. He is a guy who he was engaged to someone for 5 years, and then she cheated on him. So it's that thing of like, he's not looking for a relationship, and she's like, well, I'm not interested in one night stand. But it's really, this one was really cute. I gave it 4 stars just because he was way too yo-yo for me. Like, he literally told her, I don't want to do anything. That's why I'm ignoring you, because I know there's tension between us, but like you want a relationship, and I just got out of this like really overwhelmingly like bad situation. But then the next day he like corners her in a closet and they like make out. And like I don't like that quick of a yo-yo. Like I like there to be more of a like why it's happening. So I only gave that one a 4 star, but not only, like it was still fun. So there you go. Those are the 5 R.S. Grey I read this month. I'm in the middle of like 2 more of them right now. I'm having a good time, but man, they've swung the pendulum for me. The positives I'll say about R.S. Grey, like each story has managed to be unique and different. And so as you can tell, like I had one that was a 2 star and I absolutely hated it. And then I've had ones that are 5 star and are great. And she has a different trope in like every single one. And they're just varying careers and varying experiences. And I know a lot of people really love R.S. Grey. So there you go. Check her out. Check it out while there's still Audible Escape, if you have that. There's about 20 of her books on there. Most of them are on Kindle Unlimited as well. So definitely check her out. So I am going to say goodbye here. I hope you like this. This was my weekly reading. Be on the lookout for, in a few days will be my monthly wrap up where I'll go over all my stats and everything. And yeah, I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week. Make sure you subscribe and like this video. It really helps me out in the analytics. Make sure you check out my Discord down below where you can chat, ask questions, request videos anytime. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.